usually say welcome to the job site, but welcome to my house today. I've got some work to do here. What I'm going to be showing you in this video is how to move this electrical switch over with what is called an old box or a remodeler's box. A lot of times with trim carpentry, you'll run into issues like that I've ran into today, where I'm going to replace this old dingy casing, just boring casing, and put this big 1x4 with 2 panel moldings on each side. So when you look at that, we're going to have an issue here. And I run into this a lot on wainscoting. So I've done this a lot with wainscoting. So first thing I'll do is I'll take this off. I'll see how much slack I have in the line, and that just so I can figure how far I can move it over. And then I'll show you the process on installing this just over here with the box. A lot of people have asked to see my house and they think it's like decked out and trim, but the truth is it's not even close. I don't work on my own house because by the end of the week I don't even want to mess with tools. I love what I do, but it's like if you work at Starbucks, you're not gonna go home and make yourself a cup of coffee. But I have one of those things called a wife who always wants me to do stuff. Now that I'm at this point with the casing removed and the plate cover removed, I need to determine which side of this electrical switch the stud is on. Now it's pretty obvious in this scenario. Most people would guess and be right that it's on this side of the door frame. And you're right if you guess that. It's pretty obvious. But sometimes when you've got a regular electrical outlet for plugging in that's in the middle of the wall, you have no idea which side that stud is on. So the easiest way to probably do it is just to run a stud finder, and you see I'm on the right side of the switch and I've got nothing. But if I go more and more to the left, you start seeing the stud show up. So the stud's there. One way to do this if you don't have a stud finder is to just drill a hole right there, and if you just go through all the way, there's no stud. But if you've got a lot of resistance, then obviously there's a stud. So the obvious answer to move my outlet or my electrical switch is going to be this way, because I don't have to go through a stud. What you should do before you start messing with this is just go ahead and turn the breaker off that controls this switch. Once I unscrew this switch from the box, I like to just pull on the slack to see how much I'm working with, and then I will just see if there's enough slack to move it over. And there's plenty of slack, because when I hold up my sample of my casing, it's actually going to cover the old hole where the old box was. So we'll be good. We won't have to patch anything. Now what I need to do is take all this wiring apart, and a good idea is to take a picture of this on your cell phone or camera so you remember where the wires go, if you don't, because it's really easy to forget. If you look in there, there's a nail right there. That nail, and there's a nail at the bottom you can't really see. But more than likely, if you're doing this is an old house, you're not going to have the nails showing through. They're usually on the top and bottom of the box. So just know that if your stud, like in my case, is on the left, you're going to have 2 nails going in from the right into that stud, holding the box secure. So what I need to do is take this apart, take all this wiring out, and pull this box out. So I've removed all the crimps where the wires were crimped together. More than likely, if you have this situation, you'll have wire nuts, because this is an old house, like from the 70s. So what I need to do now is, since those nails are coming from the right, I just want to kind of pry on this and see if I can see them back there. And then once I can see them, I can see the nails on my left side. Right here, you can take a reciprocator saw, or I'm going to just use a little multi-tool and cut those off, and then I'll just pull this out. So I can see my nails right there. I'm using a blade made by Bosch that's for wood and nails. So I'm just gonna make sure these wires are out of the way so I don't accidentally cut them. And then I'll put this and just zip those 2 nails. One more. And once you have those nails cut, I just take a pair of needle nose pliers and just grab onto the box somewhere and pull it out. You may have to move these wires around to cooperate with you because they may not want to. Just, you gotta kind of finesse them out there. They may not want to come. It'll just be some finessing to get these out of here. So that's what you should end up with. And this old thing, I'm just gonna get rid of this. You can see my stud in there, what it was nailed into. So now that we're at this point with the wires, 2 sets of wires coming from the top and then 1 set coming from the bottom, we're gonna use this old box or remodeler's box to retrofit over here. And the way this works is it's got 2 toggles, 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. And then as you tighten this here, this toggle pulls it closer and squeezes the drywall between these 2 surface areas, between that one and this one. So as you tighten it, it'll just pull it and it'll just squeeze up against it. So you can see I have this here on the top, 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom. It has these little pop outs, 1 here, and then 1 on the bottom. But with our casing, we know it's gonna be about right there, like we said earlier, right on that line. So I'm just gonna hold it up there and just kind of make a pencil line just as a reference about where it's gonna be. This isn't perfect, but I know that this is gonna be all covered up, and I want this new outlet that I'm putting in, this new box, to be not just butted up to this. I want to give it some wall in between it. So I'll just move it over to about here. And with these boxes, they're all pretty much the same. Yours may be a little bit different, but what you want to do is just get it where you want it. So I've got those pencil marks right there at 3 inches. So I'm just going to line it up right there with each line on each line, so it's good to go. And then once I'm at the correct height, I'll just put a pencil line in between those 2 tabs right there. I'll put a pencil line on the right side too. There's also 2 tabs on the bottom. I'll do the same thing the whole time I'm not moving the box because it's right where I want it. But the key is those 2 tabs, they need something to grab, because when this comes up and squeezes the drywall in between that tab and this, if there's nothing there, it's not going to hold. So you want to really make sure you don't make this hole too big. If you do, this will all be a waste of time. So that's what you should end up with. I'll connect these lines and then I can cut that out just using a straight edge. So once you have this boxed out, the outline that you're going to need to cut out, you just want to throw this on there just to verify, because you really only get 1 shot at this. And just make sure that those tabs are above your line on the top and the tabs on the bottom are below your line. So we're good to go. I'm just going to use that same tool I used to cut those nails out, and I'll cut this out. So that's loose now, I can just pull it out. And we'll just pull these wires through and feed them through our box. And now that I got my wires pulled through the new hole, I'll go ahead and grab my box, and then I'll just feed those new wires. I'll feed these old wires through my new box. And this is why it's important to check how much slack you have first, because if I move it all the way over here, there's no way I'm gonna get these wires. I'm already a little short on wire right here, but it'll be plenty for me. But that's why it's important to check that slack first. And this again is just finessing it in there. So now that I have that in position, I'm just gonna pull these wires through. They're a lot easier to pull with these needle nose than my fingers in there. As I'm sliding this in, you'll see those two tabs that we outlined earlier, or that we didn't outline. That's why you want those there. So there's something to grab. So now that that's in place, I got my wires in position. This set on the top left, there's a set on the top right, and then I got one set of wires on the bottom left. Now all I gotta do is just tighten this screw, both of these screws, and this box won't move at all. It'll be in there good to go. It's actually already tight, just how it is right there. But tightening those will just pull that toggle and squeeze the drywall in between that tab, and then that toggle they'll just compress it like a clamp. So I'll go ahead and tighten this bottom left one first. It doesn't take much either. I'm just tightening that one. And right there where the impact kind of just gave out on the screw, that's all you need. It doesn't need to be extremely tight because it's just drywall. And then that is super tight. And just to illustrate it, I'll grab those needle nose and try to pull this out. And you can see it's snug in there. Now I'll do the same thing. If I do that to the top though, I haven't tightened the top yet. I'll pull on that and you can see all the play that it has in it. And then with the top one tightened like the bottom one, check this out, I'll try to pull on it. And there's nothing. So all that we have to do now is rewire. I'm not going to show this because this isn't really the scope of the video. But that picture you took earlier of your wiring, you just want to put that back. And now that we've got that, we're ready to move on to installing our casing. So it's right at the same level and everything, and it's a good distance away. It's not going to be clustered right here. And we got a 2-for-1. We're going to hide that, which is usually what happens when you're doing trim anyways. You're going to end up hiding the old hole, because that's the whole purpose. You've got to move this for a reason. And at this point you could go ahead and turn the breaker back on, or right after this, once you got it all wired up. And I already turned mine on, that light outside. I don't know if you can see that, but it's working. It's good to go. This is a light switch for the exterior light. And just like that, we are good to go. Box is in there. It's super tight and it's not going anywhere. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you learned something about how to move an electrical outlet or light switch when you encounter one doing your trim carpentry. It happens to me all the time, and several people have asked me how to do it, so that's how I do it. It's legit, it's up to code. There's no issues with fires or anything like that. So what I showed you is good to go. So anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I'll see you guys next time, and take care.